Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the strange show that we call the Inworld Review. And today we are going really strange. We're going odd, in fact, but more about that later. First of all, a few intros to get out of the way. The show, of course, we look at arts, people, destinations all over the Hypergrid. And for those of you who don't know what the Hypergrid is, it's a platform, a communication system that joins together lots of different virtual worlds that are actually authored using the Open Simulator software platform. Those of you remember something called Second Life back in the day, it's still around, I hasten to add. Very similar model, similar viewer, but you can do a lot more in OpenSim and on the Hypergrid. And, well, that's it, basically. It's an open frontier, which we absolutely love. Second Life, of course, we're still fond of, really, but it is a walled garden. So that's the general gist of things. My name is Mal Burns, as if you didn't know that already. Maybe some of you don't, who knows? So introducing myself. On my right-hand side is my right-hand man, none other than James Atlloud. He who sits and fiddles with knobs and talks occasionally. He handles all the audio and video here. That's what I mean by the knobs. Don't get me wrong. And welcome, James.
Well, thank you, Mal. I need to share with you all that regarding the knobs, I have a new computer, and so everything is afresh. All the software re-downloaded, all the settings reset. Of course, that means what might happen today? Have I gotten all the settings? Have I gotten all the knobs? Who knows?
I don't know. So, yes, well, unfortunately, I'm preoccupied on my desktop, so I can't figure really knobs for you.
It all seems good so far.
Your knob is up to you, mate.
Right. I think we're good.
Right. Actually, I can tell from your voice you're on this. You're quite clear, but you're obviously on a different mic setup from normal.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, anyway. Right. Well, I said today's going to be a bit odd. I'm going to introduce, I've got a bit of opening to do anyway, but I've got two guests here today. You may be familiar with them. Well, one of them is called Tuna Oddfellow. Welcome, Tuna.
Hello.
Again and again and again. Hello. Right, and the other is called Witch Whisper. Hello, Witch Whisper. Word tongue twister. Witch Whisper. Hello, Witchy.
Hello. Thank you for having us here today.
Okay, I'll explain who these two characters are a little bit later on. First of all, I'm just doing a normal opening quick roundup. I should point out that my wonderful co-host, Tasha Ryran, who I rely on tremendously, her seat's empty today. And I've got a feeling that here in Europe, where I am and she is, we put our clocks back, from summertime to wintertime last night. I got a funny feeling she hasn't clicked that makes we're actually coming on there an hour earlier in Europe to keep up with American normal time, if that makes any sense to you. So she may join us halfway through saying, oh, I forgot. Anyway, she joins us so much the better, but I'm sure we've got our hands full with our guests here anyway. Just a quick roundup of November, of course, and the Hypergrid Safari. And you see on the screen now, Hypergrid Safari Roundup, indeed. I'm not going to show any videos today because we've got much stuff to get on with our guests, but let me see. Hang on. Friday, October 25th. Oh, yeah, that's right. So Thursday was actually away on Wednesday. She left it to Star and...
Lifted Pixel.
Lifted Pixel, that's right, to actually do the caretaking job, so to speak. So her blog on the destinations is a little bit late. I think it was on Friday or something. But the first stop, as you can see here in the pictures, was the Doctor Who kind of installation, kind of fan club, kind of everything, really, on Littlefield Grid. That's the chap who... I'm really doing a lot of blanks today, actually. So... is it Dirk? Was it?
That sounds
I don't
right.
know.
I'm sorry, I can't remember.
It's not Dirk McKeegan, but it's definitely a Dirk. Right. He's the guy who runs this, and That was us in the clubhouse before we got going. That's us arriving. Basically, lots of walls of Doctor Who. It's really got all the Doctor Who memorabilia, pieces on all the assistants, all the doctors over the years.
So much.
And there we are. Sort of, we've got the interface showing on these pictures. I'm already missing Thursday's gifts. There's a nice one. Basically, it's an authority on Doctor Who, and you can wander around there and find out about everything, models of the cyborgs and the Daleks and many of the others over the years, all the different actors. It's like a bit of a maze. You know what a maze would look like if you're, made of hedges. Well, this is actually a bit like a maze too. It means you're sort of zigzagging in and out of corridors with displays on. It means they're quite narrow, but it obviously economizes on space because they get an awful lot into what is actually a fairly small sort of maze. There's a moving Dalek. Notice everybody running or not running, as the case may be. And this was I've forgotten whose it was. This was a version of the TARDIS, which was yes, I know. There was a Doctor Who film,
the movie,
sometime in the 60s. There were actually, I think there were 3 in all, but this was the first one, and this was the TARDIS they built in the movie. So it's the one TARDIS incarnation that's never been in the TV show. I can imagine those of you at home saying, "What's a TARDIS? Who's a Doctor Who? What Doctor what?" No, that's never mind. Right, and so there's a lineup of all the Doctors, except they can't see their faces. There's another version with the faces forward, but I haven't got that there. And the Day of the Doctor. That was an episode of the new series which started early this century, but of course this goes back to it probably started before I was born. I certainly remember black and white episodes and very menacing Daleks when I was about age 5 or something. So it's been around a long while, this. Okay, so the next stop,
So Mel, I have a question though.
Yeah?
Do you have a favorite Doctor?
Oh, what is it from the audience?
No, that's from me.
Right. Oh, it's a good point. I was asked that on the actual thing.
Right.
I've got 2. I think. Oh God, my favorite one was the second one that came back. Not Matt. He's in everything. He's wonderful.
David Tennant.
David Tennant. Yeah.
Number 10, Dr. 10.
In terms of Doctor Who itself, looking back, I kind of very fond also of Tom Baker.
Tom Baker, number 4 and 10.
Yeah.
That's me.
I used to work in Soho, and at the end of the day, he'd been in the same bar drinking. So I got to know him, Tom Baker, the person, quite well.
Sure, right.
And he looked in real life pretty much like the Doctor, except with a bit less costumed up. But he's a really open, nice, friendly guy. Sort of, whenever you say, "What's your favorite Doctor?" I think, "Well, Tom, of course." But in fact, Tennant has probably taken over in that sense. So,
that's pretty cool.
Two
very cool.
What?
Yeah, 2 for different reasons.
What did you say?
I
Tuna?
said that David Tennant is very cool, and how everybody is really, when everyone who's now experiencing Doctor Who is really thinking about what's happened in the past, 20 years or so.
Yeah.
But Tom Baker was one who, when I was growing up, I would know who he was just by name. A lot of them were just the Doctor, and I never really got to know the actors.
Right.
Yeah.
And Witchy,
My
did you have a
grandmother-
favorite? Yeah.
Yeah, my grandmother knitted me a scarf like Tom Baker's.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Because I liked him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I also like David Tennant too. 'Cause he's hot.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's almost unanimous.
I agree.
Okay. Well, the Inworld review questionnaire has
That's right.
decided. David Tennant wins with Tom Baker near second. Or is it the other way around? I don't know, and I don't really care. Let's
That's
get on
right.
with the show. Second stop, was a sneak preview of the Hypergrid World's Fair, or OpenSim World's Fair, I think it's called, which will be happening next March. It's actually the month before the Hypergrid International Expo. That picture shows the sort of tall skyscraper kind of thing, and the kind of floating ball on top. It's not actually floating, it's actually attached, as we found out. When we arrived, we were all on that top of that tower. And it was kind of the idea is we get a view of the whole 8 regions. Of course, anybody knows that even if you've got your draw distance set to full, there is no way you're going to be able to see all 8 regions, especially over a tower. There's about a whole region up, But a nice idea. And we came down and got into a sort of trolley bus that took us around the place. I crashed after about 25 minutes, and quite frankly, it had been so laggy, I just didn't have the heart to try and get back in. But it was a nice sort of preview of what I saw of it. And I do have film, but as I say, it's sort of like film in slow-mo, so I won't show that. But these, anyway, are more the pictures. That's their logo. You've probably seen that a few times by now. And in fact, I will just interrupt this one by clicking onto another web page here. This is actually OpenSimWorldsFair.com, and this is their website. So March the 1st to March the 30th. Call for exhibits and stuff like that, really. And also very technical, but a bit like you have the sort of routine you go through for OpenSim Community Convention and things like that. So OpenSim World's Fair, all one word.com for that one. So come back to our little preview here. Yeah, let's look at the pictures, see what this is. This is the contraption that we rode around on. It's quite jerky and stuff. I don't think it was ideal for anybody because it's a very big region. It's hardly full yet, but it's certainly got a lot of stuff already in there being built. And I imagine by the time of the real thing, they'll be doing what they can to manage things like that. A bit of a something or other there. The Time Machine and the Ghoulie Gateway. Yeah, I think those things have been thrown up for Halloween. And they've got RHIE clock there too, interestingly. Well, they've modified it a bit. Yeah, Latin Night. That looks rather like the Cuba place we visited a few weeks ago. Motown area, interesting. And another close up. No gifts this week because, as I said, Thursday was away. So I imagine it's Star Ravenhurst or somebody who took the pictures for her, as well as helping organize it. Right, so that was that. And yeah, I think that's all we need to do for catching up. Yeah, this news we had last week, yeah, Avatar Life is, it's actually it's not a Hypergrid enabled grid. It's one of these ones where you have to register online and you get a login to put into Firestorm, and it's a bit like logging into Second Life. I think it may have limited Hypergrid activity, but basically they're showing off here because as well as text messaging and text calling that you can do anywhere in OpenSim, they've actually got video calls built into the system. So if you're opening Firestorm, for example, and opening your friends list, you'll have an option of texting them or calling them or video calling them, which is, I mean, you can video call them 1,000 different ways, but the idea of having it built into a viewer is not a bad idea. So I think their viewer is a version of Firestorm that they've customized. So that news, as usual, is with Maria at hypergridbusiness.com. And we featured this last week too, which, well, Thursday introduced Joyce Lear-Lobo, and in fact, Marcus and had a word with James here too, basically just talking about the forthcoming OpenSim Community Conference, which is at the beginning of December. And we'll be having a little special about that the week before. Also worth mentioning, of course, because one of the performers at that event will be somebody called Tuna Oddfellow. It's odd. Oh, some Oddfellow. Oddfellow indeed. It's going to be at OCC.
Yeah, rumor has it this is true. I have to figure out the logistics and all that and figure out when that's going to happen exactly. But I have all sorts of ideas to build something fun and unique for that experience.
Right.
Ooh, can't wait.
That'd be good. You,
I
well, I'm going
I
to.
already got I already got my date for OCC that when I'm performing, it's in my calendar.
Ooh.
Right. So you're talking. Wonderful.
If I have
I
a
mean,
date, I haven't seen it, and I might be oblivious. That's all.
right.
You got to talk to
Okay. Well,
Sun
as you can hear, we've now introduced Tuna Oddfellow and Witch Whisperer. Full stop. I can't do your surname, my dear. I just can't do it. I had this problem with somebody else last week. They had a real name, a Discord name, and an avatar name that bore no relation to each other, and I could not pronounce the avatar name to save my life, without it in my face, so to speak. Anyway, yeah, I'm just thinking, of course. So, I mean, one of the things we'll go into your history in a minute. Right now, actually, Tuna, is you used to really be, I think it's fair to say, one of the go-to guys in the early days of Second Life, when you had Orange and IBM and Dancing Ink, and you had these big companies that were actually experimenting with Second Life at the time, and whenever they wanted to have a conference of their own or something, they always hired you for the after party.
Right. I would get hired by people like Hublot Luxury Watches. Actually had an oddball that was made. I designed it so that it had like watch pieces and gears within it, and so it was themed to their product and their tech, and had like watches in it, and found animations online and started playing with how to take an animation that was online, get permission to use it, and then incorporate it into the ball and to modify it so that it would look cooler, and be oddballified, if you would. And that was back in the days where I was working with Shava Sunsu, and we had a consulting company called Indigenous, Native Intelligence for Virtual Worlds. And later in 2008, we kind of shifted and became Oddfellow Studios because we were playing with the technology of what the immersiveness of the oddball was and how that affected people. Because the glib elevator pitch is that we found a way to get people stoned on the internet. So what we were really doing was affecting people's, through visual stimulation, we were helping people to relax, helping people to meditate, teaching people who could never do that how they could have an immersive experience that could help them and maybe help somebody who has post-traumatic stress disorder or whatnot.
Yeah. And of course, in real life, the use of certain chemicals for that sort of thing is increasing in popularity and legal these days as well, isn't it? So
this is very true.
Yeah.
I've probably come up with some ideas about the oddball using legal and illegal versions of things because I run a psychedelic show.
Yeah, but classic.
And Witch Whisper invited me to do the oddball in her setting at her club, and she helped me to reinvent what I do, and then I got to play with her technology, and I love her technology. I love what she does.
This is there's still in the background here is this is Jana Kyo Moon, who we both know, and I actually did a talk with her once, and I know that she turned up. It was real live talk. Basically, we're on the stage, but we're running film behind us, and the film was a live oddball. So they were watching the psychedelic experience whilst the two of us were on the stage answering questions. And telling them what Second Life was. This actually is all in the days. I know it's a long while ago, but come to think of it, I think it was before OpenSim even existed, so it was definitely a Second Life flavored sort of talk that we were giving. Right. I won't linger too long on this film because actually this has got this is actually very nice and particle with their performance, but I've just realized this is not actually one of yours.
Yes, it is.
Oh, it
yes,
is.
it sure is.
Oh,
I'm
right.
looking at the balls, and those are my balls.
Yeah.
You see my balls on the screen, so I know they're mine.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that slowly? Those are your balls, are they? Yeah.
Well, those balls have my tattoo on them. The little red Mickey wizard. If you had the ability to go close up to it, it's like a Mickey wizard, but it has an eyeball head, and the eyeball head is what I refer to as the Resident's Apprentice, because I'm a big fan of a band called The Residents.
Yes.
And they're the most well-known unknown band in the world. They toured around the world for over 50 years, all dressed up in costume, all dressed up in disguise.
Have a head made of balls, don't they?
I was able to actually see them a number of times.
Oh, nice.
And like a bunch. But I always admired what they did. And one of the origin stories of the Oddball was that back when I first got here, I had a little club called Club Cryptic.
Right.
The Cryptic Corporation being the company that runs the Residents. And we would do a listening party for the Residents, followed by a mashup show. And I would start doing weird visuals with it. And, well, the rest is, as they say, history.
When we were talking on Friday, I mean, I also know that a band I grew up with, they were playing in small underground clubs when I was young, was Pink Floyd, who have gone to greater things. I know you're a fan of them too, because they're one of the bands that have always focused on, at early days especially, they didn't want to be seen. So they had, these extravagant light shows going on, partly to keep themselves hidden. They're very self-conscious. That's no longer the case, actually. But, they've always pioneered that sort of thing. And when I first joined Second Life, I mean, I like the idea I could fly and all the things that were not possible in real life in the virtual world, but particularly, the concerts and things. There was a guy called Universe Stockholm, I think, or something, who quite literally
Stockholm.
Yeah, he played the whole of the Pink Floyd's Wall. It was a set in Second Life, and with visuals and stuff like that. So it's the perfect place to do that, and without the expense of a real world, event with all that stuff going on. But my next questions about the early days with you anyway is, how did you get started? I know that when you were about 5 years old, you performed for the first time magic, should we say, and then you describe yourself as a magician, which is partly where the Oddfellow thing comes from. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and the journey from that into virtual worlds?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I started doing magic when I was 5 years old because I was a product of that time in the world where magic was having a major impact on television. It was the golden age of magic on television.
Right.
I was born in, I'll date myself completely by saying I was born in 1968. So I was watching, before the David Copperfield specials, I was watching Doug Henning do specials. And Doug Henning would do these great specials. And there was a television show called The Magic of Mark Wilson on the TV set every Sunday morning. And I would watch these great names in magic who really would go out of their way to teach how to do magic to people too, and encourage young people to be magicians. And I was really blessed because my dad is and always was a supporter of my magic. He started taking me to the magic shops when I was 5 years old and taking me to the library and getting me books. And taking me to magic conventions and magic clubs, and I went to a magic camp. So I was so immersed in the experience of the impossible being possible and learned all of these secrets that it seemed to me when I discovered Second Life, which I got into the same way that everybody else did, because somebody invited me to some kinky space that I needed to go see.
Yeah.
But basically, it's I came for the wild sex, I stayed for the art, and as it were, what I ended up doing was I ended up discovering the magic of particles. And one of the first people who I met was Jopsy Pendragon. And Jopsy and I became friends, and he ran the particle lab in Second Life. And so he taught me everything that he did. And I'm like, oh, I have to do this. And then there was this guy named Starax. And Starax, Satoy, I believe, had something called the Starax Magic Wand. And the magic wand could cause all these things to just produce out of nowhere at a point where people were like, real magic in Second Life. That's amazing. That's incredible. So I have a Starax wand, and very few people have them to pull out and play with now.
Right. Yeah, that guy's legend, actually. I mean, you know, I've heard his name mentioned so often, but I never met him. It's, I think, before my time.
Well,
but...
he had several incarnations, as far as I know. There's somebody who came out years later whose name was Lightwave, who rumor has it might have been the same person, but I'd never tell. And Lightwave ended up being part of a company called Resibles, and created a thing that was these little aliens that would be inside of like giant, like you'd have this giant set that would be like a kitchen set, and you'd see it from the perspective of these little aliens. And
yeah, so I remember. Wasn't that Resible?
that was Resible. That's what I said.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I remember that one well. Yes, that was a real landmark kind of thing. Oh, it's only a matter of scaling, but it just, you know, hadn't been done before. So yeah.
I have some of them still in my inventory.
Right. Yeah, I know. I didn't import them for the show here, but when I was going through clips and things, oh, I should mention, by the way, the majority of clips we're showing behind us are from Pet Love Pet Shop, our friend. Although there's a few others too. But I noticed there are some various clips of you in real life, you know, with your top hat on, doing card tricks and things like that. I looked at a few of them. I thought we better not go too far into that. It's diversion. Now, how did you do that? You know, it's not just the finding the card, but there were a few twists on one of them. And I thought, what? Oh. You know, so you're really deft with the real world stuff as well, which is a point to be made, I think. So when you describe yourself as bringing magic to the virtual world, it's not just a matter of saying I can do particles, this is magic. It's actually the whole psychology of creating a magical experience for people. So yeah,
I'm not a particle artist. I'm a three-dimensional artist who uses particles as part of what I do. But I play with perspective, and I screw with people's minds in the environments that they're in Second Life, but then also screw with people's minds when I'm playing with them with playing cards and ropes and cards and coins and all those kind of things.
Yeah. For some reason that film wasn't as long as it looked, right? Oh, yes. And here's another one of you with Jana. Whatever. Right, so I'm going to leave it till after we talk to Witchwhisperer a bit to get into sort of how we come to OpenSim. I mean, you have a region of your own now, which is actually a housing grid, which means that it's the housing grids were begun. The most famous one is probably Inworld, spelled with a Z, which is no longer around. Most people from NASA are now in one of the Hypergrid grids at one place or another. But Moses, the US military grid, and indeed your private grid, as it were, are actually housing grids, which means that, you know, if you were having a gig there tonight, we wouldn't actually be
Right.
able to hypergrid to you. We would have to actually log out and log in as if we were going to Second Life.
Right.
Any real reasoning for going with the Halcyon grid for your own ventures, so to
How,
speak?
yeah, halcyon grids. Well, one of the reasonings behind them is that groups, grids like Inworlds and the people who hang out in them, not everybody is as comfortable traveling to OpenSim as I am, or even to Second Life as I am. It seems like we have a schism of three different groups: those who love it in OpenSim, those who love it in Second Life, and those who love it in OpenSim but are afraid of worlds where they take their content and their property and bring it to another grid that they don't trust
Yeah.
just to visit there. And so some people feel more secure being in a grid that's a closed grid like Second Life, a housing grid, a halcyon grid, being the technology that's used to run a to run Inworld, and the same engine that's being used here, the Halcyon engine.
Yeah.
Which I'm not an engineer. I don't understand how that part works. That's their own magic, but it
But
allows you to use.
if it works for you, that's good enough, kind of thing, really, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
To me, it's magic. It works, and there are things you can do in a halcyon grid that you can't do as effectively and efficiently even in OpenSim, like the way in which our trains run and the way in which certain things move, that certain things are going to be smoother, the way in which you cross a region, etc., in a seamless way. And again, there's semantics here because when I'm in OpenSim, I feel perfectly comfortable. I don't feel that I have any limitations crossing over into another place or another world when
Yeah.
I'm on the hypergrid. But different people have different feelings about that. The most important thing that makes not my grid, because it's certainly not my grid, we are Severia. Severia Estates Virtual World was named by its members, and
Here we
its members consist of all of the people uh, who are actually people who own property or people who have done sweat equity to make Severia Estates what it is and what it will become. And
are.
what we want with Severia is a place where people know that if they do get land there, that they're in a world that can't be unlike, Second Life. That Second Life, and I've said this for years, it can close tomorrow. It's
Yeah,
it's controlled by the will and the power of the people who are in charge of it.
exactly.
Okay? And Second Life is different than Severia because Severia, when you're there, you're a voting member of it. We are a 5017C. I am the chairman of the board of directors of the 5017C.
Got
We
you.
have board meetings where once a year we're electing who's going to be on that board. For some reason, I'm just blessed to have been the chairman of the board since the beginning. I guess because nobody wants that job. Uh, it's
Few
I
do,
have
few do.
right,
Especially when
right.
you tried it,
But like
Tasha.
Yaicher Muni is one of the people who's there. He's like the vice president of Severia, and we
Oh,
have
right.
a
Sorry,
lot of
I need to interrupt at the moment.
sure.
Tasha has finally arrived, so I'm
Yeah.
going to quickly get back over to Discord to make sure I can get her into the call. So we'll just say hello to her anyway. Where we are, right? Ring, and we'll go there. I think she'll be answering. Yay! Hi, Tasha. I guess you got stuck with the time zone change that I did.
I, I, I think I'm starting to my hibernation. I sleep all day long.
Well, you're
Oh,
not the only
yeah.
one.
Right.
I had an afternoon nap, but I'm confessing, I must admit. Yeah. Well, welcome to the show. As you can see, we've already started. I'll just introduce you to, we've got Tuna Oddfellow, who's
Hello.
multimedia
Hello.
artist going back way
But,
when.
but you're not on air yet.
Yes, we're on
We
air.
are.
We went
Oh
on
my
air.
God.
You see, we went on air an hour early. So I said, oh, she'll probably join us when she realized.
I didn't know. But on air early, your time, my time, our time, whose time?
Well, we all put our clocks back, but because the show's on California time, America hasn't changed.
Oh, I did not realize that. I'm sorry.
Yes, Thursday did the same thing with one of her blog posts. So she got it even more mixed up. She said we're 2 hours ahead instead of behind. It was it's really annoying this time of year. But no, it was great you're here now. I was saying at the beginning, I'm sure she'll turn up, but it should just be an hour later.
Oh, golly. I really did not realize that. I did not even think about it. No, sorry.
Okay, well, welcome. Everybody out there, welcome to my wonderful co-host Tasha Ryran, finally with us. And I guess you can take a seat and you can pick up what we're talking about as we go. But Tuna is a sort of multimedia psychedelic kind of artist, and he's very
Tasha, that sleepyhead greets everybody.
Yeah, and Witch Whisper is with her. We've barely introduced her yet, so we'll be talking to her particularly in a minute. So you better pick it up as we go along, I think. But I know you love your art, so as we've been talking about with Tuna, a lot of it's sort of particles, and he has this wonderful ball that he creates in. In fact, I was just about to ask him that. Let me get back to our. On my actual broadcast screen instead of the one I'm showing off at the moment that I shouldn't be. Right. He basically creates, he can create these sort of things like spheres in the sky, and he can actually run interactive environments all around you. And he has these oddballs, which are mostly ambient music. I'm going to get into that later. And a sort of psychedelic type displays, while it's on. And he's, as I mentioned just before you came on there, he's kind of he's one of the original Second Life sort of performers who, when all those big companies used to be in Second Life for a while, they always went. It always seemed to be him that they went to hold their out of hours event, the after parties and things. So yeah, quite exciting. And he's only he's going to be at the OCC, but he's also performing here in OpenSim, which of course is one of the additional reasons for having him here. And as we were also talking about before you came, I'm just showing it again quickly. They have a site called Sivario Estates, and this is actually a halcyon grid, which means it's not on the hypergrid, but it's not in Second Life either. It's they have particular reasons for the mechanics of halcyon grids, which are kind of so I'll get back to our guests, so to speak. Sorry about that, Witch Whisper. I'm just really glad Tosha's here because she asks the important questions. Lets me off now. Yeah, before I went through Witch Whisper, I was just going to ask you. Oh, that's right. On this clip, we've played out, just rerunning a bit of this because there's a bit where the camera pans out here. Obviously, you're in this, your guests, you with the top out, but also us who are there partying. We're all inside this environment and appears to be walking on thin air, basically, though it's not that simple. But I noticed, and I think it's near the end of this clip we showed earlier. Yeah, it's about here. Just wanted to ask you, oh Lord, where's it gone? It seemed that the camera panned. Yeah, there it is. It looked to me that the camera panned out, and this was kind of a view of what it looked like to the camera if it had actually moved away from the sphere itself. No, it's not this bit. Oh, this is typical. There we are. That bit. Yeah, there we are. That.
Yeah.
Is that really what the sphere looks like from the outside? Or is that
I have many environments that I've used, and I've had many periods that I've used, and I've had different requirements depending upon where I'm working. right now I am blessed to have, you know, both an upstairs and a downstairs space that Witch Whisper allows me to use at her club. And her
Right.
club, Dark Whispers, has a smaller footprint
Yeah.
than having a whole sim.
Right.
So we do it around that footprint, and I can scale my show to any environment. And I have an immersive environment where you have things going on above and below you in the
Yeah.
upstairs club. And then when she's doing shows in her downstairs club, she has a stage of her own that she has, and she's has that set up the way that she wants it. And then I put a smaller oddball around that,
Right.
and it becomes immersive. And then she has water that we walk on, and you can see things going on
In the water.
there in the water. And I do a particle show in the center of it. This affects the ones we're looking at right now. I believe this one were 8 interlocking spheres that were full megaprims. I mean, they were full, like, it was designed to fit a 256 square meter environment,
Uh,
where when I was doing the oddball at its biggest, these would disappear. We'd be in a clear center, and then suddenly we'd be on a kaleidoscope floor with a kaleidoscope sphere that we were in. A lot of people have since found ways to imitate and try to uh, duplicate what I did. But,
mm.
you know, I was doing this before anybody else was. I invented an art form, basically.
And
And
I know, for example, you control it through your own specially designed HUDs, heads-up displays, and things.
right,
I
had
it's not just a matter of letting off particles and making a sphere. It's far more complex than that, obviously.
it really is.
Mm.
At my show's most complicated, I had 2 avatars running it, Tuna Oddfellow and Tuna Barbarino, each on 2 separate computers, each with 8 HUDs, so that if something were to happen to Tuna Oddfellow, Tuna Barbarino could immediately take over,
Of course.
and
Yeah.
he could do all the effects. And I had all sorts of, crazy gadgets. Some of them didn't transfer over from one to the other, but I could have a mixture of visuals and an emergency, redundancy of knowing that if one of my avatars screwed up, that I
You,
had another one
you have the
that
backup.
would be there for me.
Great. Forward thinking, that's what I like to hear. Again, I imagine, in Second Life, of course, not only are full regions probably hard to come by, but of course they're expensive too. So,
Well,
being able to rest the full oddball, I guess you're sort of a bit like a traveling circus. You went to various
I
regions that had the facility to host you, so to speak.
Witchy has told me in the past 24 hours that I am very spoiled and that I somehow get what I want. And I never had a problem going to Inworlds and have somebody sponsor me and say, "Here, Tuna, you can have 256 square meters in the sky and do a full show for the rest of your life," you know, or or have somebody in Second Life say, "Oh, you're a member of our machinima group." I was with the Machinima Matrix for a bunch of years, and they did the 48-hour film festival every year. And they were out of Cologne, and so I would pay them, a minimal amount of money, and I would, support them by doing events for them and taking care of the people who were there. And one of the people who was involved with that was Domino Marima, who created Primstar, which allowed people to import Sculpty Prims into Second Life. That was before people were even having the ability to bring full scale,
Mesh.
bring a mesh in at all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
I found,
sculptures were a big thing for a while, weren't they? Because they weren't full
yeah,
cartridges, but they were very confusing. I tended to make, they weren't art at all. They were just random messes, but I called them art because I just create a shape and then I'd stick an outside texture on it and then another texture as the interior texture map. And so, that came
but
out nice.
I would end up with people who would give me, like Domino, because I helped him when he was having he suffered from really bad carpal tunnel syndrome, and he needed to have he couldn't handle virtual worlds anymore, and he had to leave.
Ah,
But we raised money for him so that he was able to deal with things that he needed for the pain that he was having and the problems he was dealing with. It was extremely severe. But
sure.
I still use megaprims today,
Yeah.
much more than I would even think about or dream of doing something with a mesh.
Yeah. Yeah, they've all
It
got
ain't
their
broken.
different functions. I mean, mesh is almost sometimes I think it's contrary to the idea of somewhere like Second Life where the users have created everything, because it's back to the
Right,
thing you tend to author out world and then bring it in. And once it's in world, I mean, not all mesh, but generally speaking, mesh is something that comes in and is then static,
right.
and so things seem to be a bit more friendly, as it were, when you know that people are actually authoring all the components, and even the walk down the street is authored in the environment rather than imported. Because there's
I'm like,
so many worlds out there now where you know you've got lovely mesh landscapes to walk around in, but you can't do anything else except walk around in them. They're fixed, and the creative side and the adventure has sort of gone from them a bit, I think.
right.
Anyway, let me pause you. I'll give your voice a rest if you want. I want to move now to Witch Whisper. We haven't really spoken yet. And I'm going to segue from the point, Tuna, where you said you will be doing an event, for example, one upstairs, and Witch Whisper would have her own stage down below. So the way I thought to start this, Witchy, I will call you, I think everybody else does, it seems. I thought the way to start this is actually to talk about your performance things and your venues and stuff. I know there's a lot of other stuff coming into this, but for example, you just as Shava, wasn't it? Used to be sort of the partner with Tuna. You're very much the second person here in the mix now, aren't you? I know he works with Jana a lot. But
Yeah.
what kind of music do you play, and sort of how does that fit in? And I'm going to load quickly your website for people to see on the
Well,
screen.
I've always really done a wide range of genres because I am just that way. I like all kinds of music. So recently I've been writing my own songs though, and most of them end up being either in blues or
Nice.
EDM. um
Bit of everything.
and a bit of everything. Yeah, like right now I have a blues album that I just released, and
Big fan of
I
the
have
blue.
an EDM. I have an EDM album too that I just released, and I'm working on an explicit album um, with explicit songs.
Do I
So
dare I ask what that? This is an erotic escapade or something.
yeah, the explicit album is going to have a lot of erotic stuff in it. So
Fair enough.
that's what's in the future, sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of
Um,
blues, actually. But do you do any, or are you a fan of that, like that sort of psychedelic sort of thing that Juno has obviously alluded to with his performances? Do you,
well,
or
if
is
you
it very much it's I don't know how to describe it, sort of abstract music almost, or are
wow,
your interests musically a bit different?
I love ambient music. If I could figure out how to do some ambient music myself, I will be doing that too. Um, the picture that I'm showing on the screen
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, moving back in
is
world. On the center screen, I've got your website. So, right.
yeah,
We're now looking in world at the other screen. Okay. This is the first of your pictures. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
yeah, that's the oddball on the upper level that Tuna has set up, and that's just a few of us that were there getting ready for the oddball sort of thing. But that's kind of what it looks like up there. And there's a stage up there with two dance balls and our tip jars, and then downstairs there's the big stage with the water dance floor like Tuna mentioned, and my store is right beside there. So if anyone wants to go shopping while they're there, they can too.
Very good.
We have a lot of clothing that we made that are oddball interactive. Like the clothing actually changes with the change of textures in the oddball, which is
Right.
really cool. It's like Tuna presses a button and all of a sudden everybody's clothes are changing.
Oh, I love it. I've
or
actually seen
or or if they
individual.
have wings, the wings are changing. And
I've seen people with individual costumes, you know, which are animated and look great. In fact, James here, our camera person, is we occasionally used to do a news program from Sansar, it was. And every week, James would have a different animated T-shirt on. Didn't you, James?
Yeah, those were the days. Those were the days.
Yeah, you know, that was not possible in real life. You know, you can't. Well, actually, they're making them now. They are actually making clothes with literally moving designs on. But yeah, they're all cribbing from us. You know, in a virtual world, they come in and say, "Oh, do it in Second Life, right? I'll work out a way to do it in real life." You know, but okay. So I should point your venue is called Dark Whispers, but this your actual
right.
venue is still in Second Life, isn't it? Your main venue here.
That is my venue in
Yeah,
Second Life. It's
yeah,
Dark
Dark
Whispers.
Whispers.
It's on my land, and
So Tuna does the old ball there quite frequently, as well as doing
well,
other places. Or,
we do it Wednesday and Friday nights. Wednesday night we're downstairs with various artists, and Friday we're upstairs in the oddball that you can see on the screen with me, Tuna, and Velvet, usually,
all right.
kind of thing. But right now downstairs we have Tuna, then we have Velvet, then we have me, then we have Sue. If you guys know him, he does a lot of stuff like Cypress does. And then we have Isabel, which is a flutist. She's just lovely. She's awesome. But that's who we have right now that are performing there from 7
It's
till
amazing.
9.
As soon as focusing on Tuna and the show, suddenly realised I'm pulling up a whole roster of what we might call ambient. You know, there's Yana, there's Cypress, and all those, and of course there's oh, what's his name? One of them. We had some film of him. He passed away a couple of years ago. Torben Asp, you know,
Oh,
and
Torben, yeah.
so many.
Corbin.
Yeah, a genre of itself. But yes, you work with all of them, so we should round them up again. But okay, so you've got you do your singing. You've got you've mentioned the albums. Flipping back. Oh, well, there's your. You still got your poster on the screen there.
Sorry.
No, I'm just flipping back to the webpage too, because you've obviously got a lot of links on the webpage.
Yeah.
I haven't investigated them more for like HUD generations and spiritual products and things like that. Basically, I've got notes here. You know, I've got your clothes, I've got your singing, I've got your albums, you got the venue Dark Whispers, including the old ball. And then actually, let's jump to this because it's probably one of the main things for the moment because it's happening in this week. You're going to be having a summit on something called Zoom. I wonder what that is. On October the 31st from 2 to 6 p.m. California time, which is in the Second Lifetime. And it's basically Psychic Readings and Energy Healings Summit. Do you want to?
Yes.
Let's use this chance here to tell me all about that because it's literally days away, isn't it? And it's Halloween as well, of course. So, yeah.
Well, I'm not on. I'm not in SL. I am doing psychic readings and tarot readings and energy healing in Zoom with people at my summits. So, there's two things I'm involved with on the 31st. There's the Thrive Healers Network, which there's a picture of right now, is doing a summit from 7 in the morning until 5 at night. And then I have a summit that goes from 2 p.m. SLT to 6 p.m. SLT on my Zoom channel. and it's going to be it's probably going to be a lot of um, uh, well, okay, the time of the year, the 31st, or like October, Halloween,
Yeah.
is the veil is very thin, so it's really good to do yearly divinations at that time. So I'll probably be doing a lot of readings on people's yearly um, divinations, and then plus I answer yes or no questions. Uh, I give them a glimpse of their future if they want it. So it's a wide range of that. I have Joan of Angels and uh, Kelly Sparta that are going to be joining us. And you can Google those people. They're just awesome.
When you do these, yeah, I must admit I'm a bit naive on all that, to be honest. But when you do your Zoom sessions and similar things like that, I mean, something I always do these days is when I'm usually on Discord, but earlier this week I had to be on Teams for a few things. But I always have like a background behind me. So I've got a green screen when I'm on webcam, which tends to be the way with Zoom. And then I have a background behind me. Now, you can always usually do it with a still thing or whatever, but where possible, I actually have a looping video behind me, which would be psychedelic, for want of a better word. I love having something that would look like the interior of an oddball, not with avatars in it, but running behind me. So here's my
Right.
webcam in a psychedelic world. Do you ever have it? But I'm just leading into a question. If you ever thought of using your Zoom channel in that way, where you're combining the sort of immersive effects that things like Tuna does with the actual discipline of do you have meditation, for example, or this divination and whatever?
Well, I do have,
these things can actually enhance well-being visually. So
yeah, I had to build a secondary website for my healing energy work um, business, and the link for it will be on this website that you're showing, my Blogspot website.
right.
And right now, my music is on that website. I'm going to be putting it back on the Blogspot website, though. And I've been doing some meditations that people can purchase and things like that. And a song called Psychic Readings is for free on there right now if anyone wants to go download it. It's a Witch Whisper original. And
do you have a site on Spotify or the music channels that people use?
well, I do have Spotify. I'm going to be uploading my latest albums to Spotify
Right.
very soon. I haven't fully got them up there yet because I've been preparing for the symposium that I'm doing. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Well, the thing on in the week, join us for live teachings on Halloween via Zoom, where we'll dive deeper into the mystic arts, healing, and the power of spirit connection. It's going to be a spooktacular journey of learning, growing, and fun, and we really want you to be part of it. So I'm reading out the blurb there for those who can't.
Yeah.
Now, the thing I missed, of course, here too, it's actually top on my list here. Beyond the music, the singing albums and the venue and stuff like that, and the healing site, your clothes, right?
Yes.
You make clothes.
Yeah.
My clothes. If you look at the
picture here,
I put up, there's that's where I do most of my creation of clothing is on that platform. I mix a lot of mesh with flexi. I did some evanescence type clothing not too long ago. Um, uh, yeah, I've helped Tuna make a lot of the oddball clothing that we've made together. I gave him a HUD that he can use for his oddball if he so chooses.
I do.
Which he has. He has, yeah.
Well, it's changing costume
And
performance kind of thing.
well, just like it's like a texture HUD sort of thing, but using the technology for clothing that to be incorporated into the oddball, which is really interesting.
Nice, yeah.
Like
yeah.
I said, people's clothes change colors and it's cool.
And if you're clever about it, and we do teach people how to do it, they can save copies of the clothing that they like when they see a nice texture during the show,
Yeah.
and they could put that that texture in their folder and keep that version of the outfit. And there are some really funky outfits, some really kinky outfits, because, well, we like leather and lace and stuff stuff that is very, shiny and
Like latex.
yeah,
Latex.
Latex,
latex.
like
So
her. Yeah,
in fact,
I think
I have to go
that's
into
a
making
thing to me.
clothing that it's one of the reasons I have an excuse to be male tuna and female tuna in the virtual worlds. But really, I just like being male and female in virtual worlds and in games, and I always have been a non-binary, shape-shifting, psychedelic creature. And yeah, it's who I am. I gotta be me.
I noticed in the Oddfellow World clips we got, in most of them, you're wearing a top hat. Just like your avatar does. It's in fact, it's rather odd actually. I mean, maybe this show today is the only time I've seen you without your top hat on.
Probably the reason why I don't have a top hat here is because I I had to I was originally going to do this in one of the grids that I have an older tuna in. This actually is a Kitely tuna, and I've had my Kitely tuna for a long time, but I had to make a new Kitely tuna at one point too. I have top hats that I've made. I've designed them in almost every world, but I didn't have a darn Kitely one coming in here. So yeah, you're getting me without a top hat. I always have a mohawk, and my mohawks were given to me, or actually purchased with permission to use it on any grid by an artist back when I was in Inworlds years ago. So that's always been an important part of my ideals and of Witch Whisper's ideals. And then back in the old days, Java's was to make sure that we were always fair to artists. And, if if people were giving their art, it was with fair use. And that people gave, like, back in the day, I would tell people you could take pictures of the oddball and make art out of it. And even in the old days, I used to sell my clothing with a modification ability, so you could make other things out of it. I kind of got a little bit, I got a little bit less.
I do want to say in regards to our clothing, we have we have the oddball clothing, but we also have normal clothing. Like
oh yeah,
like
a little afterthought there. I take it.
well,
Yeah.
there's people that don't just want to attend the oddball, but they don't necessarily want to look like the oddball. So for those people, we have just normal clothing. So every time we do an outfit that's like an oddball version and a normal, you can wear it anywhere sort of.
Where it's in Virtual Street, basically.
If you're ever in that other place and you want to find oddball clothing in the marketplace, you can do the search for WWNODD, and that's the Witch Whisper and Tuna Oddfellow brand.
Right.
And we will make lots of new and exciting WWNODD clothing there. It could even end up happening in an OpenSim project near you. although we haven't talked about that, and I just wanted to throw that out there as a possibility. You know, but we would have to figure out the technology behind it. But
Of
more
course.
and more, I think that oddballs will happen in OpenSims that are hypergrid enabled. So I have to figure that out too, I think. That
I,
goes on the list.
I think, you know, if you can get hold of your HUDs and scripts and everything else you use, and you know, you know, offline as it were, and import them into OpenSim, I don't think you'll actually find that much difference. I remember you mentioned earlier about the fact you've got roads and trains on railways and things that behave differently
Right.
in Halcyon, for example, than they do
Right.
in the main OpenSim threads. But I don't think you'll find it. I know an awful lot of people ended up in various OpenSim grids here from
Right.
Inworlds, and
Right.
it seems to have been a fairly seamless exercise for them, and maybe they're just so overjoyed with having the hypergrid that they're not complaining. No, but
It was
yeah,
always a seamless idea for me, and I was playing with Sim on a stick and having my own, you know, not before the hypergrid even, having my own little worlds that even if you could hypergrid there, you couldn't get anybody to come because nobody had the technology to do it. You know,
of
but
course.
I was running with these things on my computers and was a pioneer in all of it. And from the early days of Second Life, I felt it was important to tell people as artists to protect their art by having their art exist outside of a closed world.
Yeah,
Have it
absolutely.
exist on their, you know, on their desktop or have it in their cloud so
Yeah.
that and have it in backup clouds. And, you know, God forbid something were to happen to me and I were to pass away, you know, hopefully someone could at least play back this recording and say, I want Witch Whisper to be able to, you know, have the rights to my art so that she could, you know, let it live on and, you know, do whatever kind of education for other people to be able to use it, or that she and Shava could be able to do that. Those are the two people who were parts of helping my work
This is
to evolve.
yeah, I think Tosha here may have some comments to that. I dragged onto your avatar while we were talking a little top hat for you from it's actually the Cornflake Suite top hat. And
Am I wearing it now or am I just hold
well,
on?
it's colourful.
Oh,
You like it, but
hold on.
cornflakes is another instance of a well-known creator in Second Life who passed away, and Tosha also used to work with. My mind's gone blank. Lumiere Noir, who was behind the House of Prims, Tower of Prims, and stuff in Second Life, and he's no longer with us. But Tosha here, in fact, sort of keeps a lot of his stuff alive. Maybe you'd like to get a bit in, Tosha, about that.
I'm still trying to
I
wake
like
up.
that a lot.
It's
I
just
think it's very
trying to wake up.
important.
Yeah, well, yeah, I thought I'd bring her in on that. But yeah, so I mean, there's two examples where OpenSim.
But what I just discovered is that indeed I used to make in the old days all primmy a lot of top hats too, different ones, hats and
Yeah,
top hats and witches heads. And if you don't mind, I will later send you an example of it.
I
I would,
back
I
in
would be
Second Life, I used to collect top hats. There was a place called the Mad Hattery,
Okay.
which was a shop in Second Life, and I used to subscribe to. And I must have hundreds of top hats, not just from
I
them,
remember
but
them.
you
I
know,
think I
I,
have the Mad
I've got
Hatteries
ones
too.
with like a movie camera on top. So you know, I would wear if I was filming, and then I've got other steampunk ones with cuckoo clocks coming out of them. It was a thing, you know. It was just surrealism for me. I thought top hats, you know. I can't wear them anymore because I'm a cat now, but you know.
That's looking good, Tuna.
Thank you very much. Now I'm styling.
That's right.
Hey, your cat won't let you wear top hats. Why? What does the cat do to them?
The cats are, well, no, the cat's the size of my avatar is a cat in Second Life when I go there.
Oh, right,
He's
right.
a
Yeah.
mesh cat, and he's about the size of a shoe. So the danger is you step on him by mistake. But so that's unfortunate. But he can go anywhere. You know, he can go to a spaceship. He can go to a historical environment, a future environment, or everywhere has cats. They're more common than humans. You know?
Oh, I love cats.
I really channel my inner feeling, inner feline. I was about to say, because of the way he moves. He's a meshed cat, and he's got his own HUD, and he just behaves like a cat. You know, make great fun.
Right. No, I just got confused because I was like, I thought you had a top hat in real life that your cats kept attacking or something.
Oh, they probably would. No, I don't have a cat at the moment. Actually, I'm tempted, but sort of, it wouldn't have much. They'd have to become an indoor cat, which would be unfortunate. Too high up and nowhere to go out, you know. But yes, yeah, I think I'd need a metal top hat in that case, wouldn't I? Yeah. Something good, well, like one of those scratching poles, you know. If it was a top hat made out of that material, it could just
they just shred it.
Sit on my head and scratch, you know. All right, we digress. But yes, I do love my cat avatar over there, I've got to admit. Right, so well, we covered the history and where we got to. Well, I was about to move back to Tuna a little bit now. I was thinking of the draw in Second Life. As you say, you haven't got sort of too many ready-made oddball setups here. You're going to be performing at the OSCC thing, which you say you're going to be working on a new environment for that.
Well, a combination of a new environment, some of the old favorites of mine, some things that have become things that are harder for me to do on a regular basis in Second Life, because I like to play nice with others. And the venue that we're there, and one of the reasons that Witch Whisper asked me to join the venue was to be part of a team of performers, you know, and originally I was just, doing the oddball as one of her acts. She didn't know when she invited me to be there that suddenly I would like really glom onto wanting to help her I said, Witchy, you need somebody who is going to be there for you when you're not feeling well and you need to have somebody run the show.
Yeah.
You're going to need somebody who is going to be there when everybody else gets sick. And I know I'll get sick occasionally too. I have chronic health stuff I deal with, but be there during the full show and make sure things go correctly. And if there's a problem and there's a tech issue and you can't get in, I'm there. And, we have a backup. And so I didn't want my show, and certainly she didn't want my show. And boy, would I hear it when I would do effects that were overbearing,
That's so true, yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a lower version of my show that doesn't have like interlocking balls that make it impossible for you to get to your tip jars and whatnot.
Yeah.
I like the art. I don't care that I'm in the art. I believe that people are smart enough to figure out that if they're inside of balls that they can't get to, that they tip my head or something. But people don't necessarily think about that, and I get it. So I made something that was a little bit more, it's a compromise, because the oddball already is saying, you know what? All of these people want to build these boxes and call them houses in Second Life, and they look just like the houses that we live in. And all these people want these clubs that are boxes.
So imaginative, eh?
Right. And it's not imaginative even anywhere in OpenSim or any of that. There's a lot of stuff that's just people wanting to create their lives, and I get it. I love being inside of old historical environments, or going to a pub that exists in Ireland that I would never get to in real life, and that's great. But I wanted someplace that was being trapped inside of a music video, and that people could have fun with. And I should mention, because we never came up during any of this, when we talk about the psychedelic and ambient artists, I have been studying and been playing with synthesizers since before there was a Second Life. And
I was going to ask you about this because when I used to come to the Oddballs in Second Life,
right,
I think it was Shava, but also you had a kind of radio station that actually was great because it was wonderful ambient music, but it wasn't your own. You were doing the visuals to ambient music. So
yeah, we would play like Soma FM back in the day.
yeah, we were talking the other day, and you mentioned that you're now doing your own music too. So that's on my list to ask about. So I can segue into that for sure.
Excellent. So I, basically when I moved from Texas, ended up spending 10 weeks living in Connecticut, and then found myself, I had lost everything I owned in order to move from Texas, long story short, to Canada, because I went through things in my world. And I end up here, and it's kind of like going through a magical journey of kind of a walkabout where you've given up all of your earthly belongings and you're starting anew. I lost all my magic books. I lost most of my electronic thingies. And I love things. A lot of us love things.
Yeah.
But
So,
coming here, I had to come up with 2 suitcases, a top hat, and I have a couple of synthesizers that are going to be sent to me from home eventually. Home being like my parents' house, mailing it to me. But this is home now. And I have a djembe drum, which totally balances off the going on a walkabout. The djembe drum was a ceremonial drum that was given to me by Kelly Sparta, who's actually one of the artists, one of the witches, who's going to be presenting at Witch Whispers healing and readings event.
yeah.
So it's sort of, and technology is what ended up getting me that djembe. I wanted a djembe drum for 26 years because I'm a pagan, I'm a magical being, and the world does magically happen around me. And then sometimes I do end up with people like Witchy saying I'm spoiled, because if you manifest things the right way and you, even in the hardest of times, just have the faith that you can find ways to make it happen, we do, because we are all magical beings. We're all magical creatures. And in virtual worlds, we have the power to tap that and to spread our magic to others. And if that sounds woo-woo or whatnot, even to the virtual world people, well, see the world through our eyes.
It is. I mean, different people use different terminologies for the same thing sometimes. So, I mean, what you're saying makes perfect sense. I can see other people would put it a different way. But
sure.
Some people will call something like a magical display, and somebody else will say it's a spectacle, and they won't correlate the things, but they can be. They maybe
and
are.
Some people call it medicine, and medicine makes sense to them because they think of, things that are healing people that are scientific. And there are scientific reasons why the oddball works the way that it does on people. And there are scientific reasons why meditation works on people. And back in the day, it was Shava who was doing all the research, saying, this is scientific and we're scientific people, and we have to get a double-blind study on why the oddball works before we could get it patented. We wanted to patent it. We ended up not giving a patent because we didn't want for technology that was helping people to be hidden behind a patent wall. But at the same time, we made it so that we couldn't monetize it, So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And of course, somebody else is going, oh, that's a great idea, and it's not patented or it's unpatentable because, you've poisoned the patent by describing it to people in a virtual world. And so here we are today, and I'm doing my best to, honor everything that I've learned through the virtual worlds, through my time with Shava, through my time now with Witchy. It all just, everything connects. Everything in the virtual world happens because somebody else before us did something, even if it was something before there was a virtual world, you know,
Oh,
we're
one
all interconnected.
of the unique things about OpenSim, Second Life, and the whole ilk there really is collaboration. It's not just the not possible in real life type of things, but it's also as you say, the ability to work in teams, to collaborate. You can I can base a prim and I can give it to somebody else to texture, and then I can give it to
Right.
then it goes to somebody else who can manipulate the physics of it, and then somebody else who can do something else to animate it maybe. And it's all one object, it's all in real time, and you're just handing it between people who are doing different things to it. And quite frankly, in all these newfangled virtual worlds, even the hyperdoses and soundstyles of this world, you can do that. Second Life and Sim has actually been the only environment where you can that level of live collaboration is possible. And however much they trumpet the new 3D worlds, they're missing that. And as you must appreciate, what you're doing here, if somebody just threw you into a new virtual world, firstly you'd have to learn, the mechanics of how you could do things. But secondly, the chances are you wouldn't be able to do what you've learned how to do thanks to Second Life and OpenSim. It's sort of the magic is part of the tool that you're using, if you see what I mean. It's sort of, it doesn't necessarily transfer somewhere else. It'd be nice if it did, but to me, what you do is something that's unique to Second Life and by extension OpenSim. I can't see this. I haven't actually been myself to another virtual world that I can think of where you would have found it possible to do this, and I would be able to come and be in it, kind of thing. I might be wrong, but
I haven't found one yet, and
yeah.
I look, and I go into and I find all of these experiences, and I don't have a headset to put on, and I don't want to wear a headset to be in my world. I'm perfectly immersed with my world being in front of me on my screen, or even on. I watch and I perform and I create very often on a handheld 7-inch screen on my Steam Deck, which I did for 2 years.
Yes, yeah.
And I was on the Steam Deck for 2 years, and the year before that, I actually immersed myself in learning how to be a power user for Linux, because it runs off Linux.
Yeah.
So I could make it do things that even somebody who was opening up a brand new Steam Deck would not be able to do, because I'm a geek. I can't help it. I want to break into things and go, how do I learn it all? That's how the Oddball came to be. It was, I can still go back to old, data lists of all the things that I have planned and to-do lists of things that have to happen. Some will never happen.
Yeah, I remember. I was looking up that.
Can I explain?
Sorry.
Can I explain something? Yes, I have told Tuna that he's horribly spoiled, because during his birthday, which was in September, he got really lucky and he won some stuff from Focusrite, which is instrument company.
Right.
And he's a polyamorous individual, and he is now in 3 relationships, including ours. So he's been extremely lucky lately, and that's where it came from. It's not because of anything nefarious or anything. I just wanted to point that out.
Well, some people get lucky. Some
just,
guys have all the luck, as the song goes, or something. Yeah, that's it's an artist thing too. I mean, I talk about this a lot, but I mean, it's sort of I think true creators, true artists need to be allowed their own space to develop, if you see what I mean. Sort of some people, you can't really create personal art, I don't think, in public. You've got to sort of wrap yourself in your own world, feel spoiled or otherwise, to actually sort of create. Don't know, it's a long conversation, a different type of conversation really, but
I'm laughing really hard right now. Well, because she just like outed me in all of these ways that I'm very out. I'm like the outest, most open book person on the planet. But, I didn't necessarily know what was okay to say during the show. But
Oh,
yeah,
we're,
it's exactly that. It's, you know, when you're open to the world is open to you. And, you know, the more the expression that I've always heard was the more you work, the luckier you get. Um,
don't
well,
know that one.
the more you reach out to other people and share your love and share your support, the more people share their love and support for you. And I am blessed, and I'm very happy to have that be the case. But you know, I couldn't do
What
it
goes
without
what the
people.
expression we use is what goes around comes around.
Right.
Basically.
It takes a village to raise an oddball,
Yeah.
and I I can't do what I do without the right people. It's the right partner being in front of me who makes this possible, and that partner is Witch Whisper. She's the person who is there for me, who is allowing me to be me. And I should have just been able to allow me to be me anyway, but we both found each other because we were both going through hard times where we needed to heal.
Right. Okay.
And her grandmother, she took care of her granny for 10 years, and suddenly she found herself alone without Granny, and she was coming on her 1 year anniversary of Granny's death. And a very important person in her life, because she wasn't just Granny, she was a mother to her whole life. So you lose this person who's really important to you, and you lose the person who's helping you to have your income and whatnot work. And we both seemed like a good fit for each other, and we had already had this time together in virtual space, building and creating and figuring out what we what we did together. We spent all of this time on virtual platforms building and talking and talking and talking, because much like you, Mal, we love talking and we love sharing with the people around us. And, you know, I can't imagine you doing anything but a talk show, talking with all the people who you care about, because it allows you to pour your heart into what you're doing.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think you're probably right. I probably don't think of it that deeply, but you're probably quite right. Sort of.
I can't help the deep part. I don't know. It's just, it's how I'm scripted.
Right. I've also got a final clip here. This is one which was I made me go and get actually just before the show, and this is this I think is quite recent. Tunerova's winning performance. Now this is to do with NBC. This is quite old, but NBC had a thing in World. I didn't. Well, actually, let's put the sound up on this. I think there is sound. Yeah, I'll play this with sound first. I think I prefer ambient to the proto metal there, but of course there is a story behind it.
Yeah, I don't think that sound ever existed at the NBC event itself.
Right.
Anybody who I knew, it was a random person who filmed it while the event was happening. and they captured it, and I've never seen another capture of it. So
No,
it's the one that's been the history piece.
I can't.
There's a piece
I haven't
that's
seen
done
it.
by Marmaduke, Marcel, and Drax. It was like an early Drax, pre-Drax files.
Oh God,
And
that when it was in Germany.
so
Yeah.
yeah, and Drax did so Marmaduke Martel was like, "What does it take to be the most talented avatar in Second Life? NBC thinks they know." And from there, from there he proceeds to like have, I'm interviewed, and they're taking pictures of me in a castle because the original Oddballs weren't a big show. I wasn't inside of spheres. I didn't know how to do most of the stuff that I do now. And I just was good at collecting toys, learning
Yeah.
how to use them better than anybody on the planet.
And blending
Okay,
them together.
sounds like I have an ego. But yeah, I did really good with them. And I could use them in ways that made them not feel like they were somebody's toy, but like were being used as a tool to create art. And Shava said to me 1 week before NBC did this, she said, "There's a cattle call for this audition to become the most talented avatar in Second Life, and you'll win $1 million Linden dollars." And I said, "Shava, there's no way that I'm going to win $1 million Linden dollars. That's crazy." And she said, "Oh, come on, just do it." And I said, "I only have a week to do it." And in a week's time, I learned how to build gestures, and I learned how to take all of the effects that I was doing and how to string them up. And I had people give me some sound bites, and I basically did a whole bunch of things more than I really needed to win the contest.
Yeah.
And I auditioned, and they did what America's Got Talent does, where they put you in front of a bunch of celebrity judges, and they
Yeah.
narrow you down to 5 finalists out of, I think, 10 semifinalists.
Yeah.
And then they put us in front of a virtual studio audience on 3 separate islands,
Oh.
of each with 100 people each. And then
Wow.
they had them all vote. And they voted Tuna Oddfellow most talented avatar. I won $1 million Linden dollars, and my
What
avatar
did you
appeared.
do with $1 million Linden dollars? Is quite a lot, actually. And it's not a
It's
million
a
pounds, but
lot.
that's a lot.
It was, I always say 4,000 US, but it was about it was over 3,800 US. And it was the largest tip I ever had put on a top hat, my tipping hat, which has always been a top hat. And
Yeah.
so every place I go that I have a tip hat, my tip hat always has a slot for $1 million Linden, because you know what? If it happened once, it could happen
It
again.
might
I
happen
have
again.
been told that I'm really spoiled.
And what did you spend it all on? I mean, you still got it.
Uh, no, I spent it on starting up our first business.
Of course. Yeah.
We started up Oddfellow Studios, but I think even at that point we had started up in Indigenous at that point. And at that point it was going to do Oddfellow Studios, because we went to South by Southwest Interactive, the first ever South by Southwest Interactive. First day, new tongue. And while we were there, we went to something called, there was this weird little company that was having their startup company, their startup party. And their startup party was for this little company, this crazy, stupid little thing that would never catch on, where people were using their cell phones to communicate with each other. And instead of using like normal amounts of letters to talk to people and having all the characters you can talk to in a letter, they
Yeah.
could only communicate using 140 characters. Like,
Oh,
why would that catch on? You know?
I also, but
And
I beta tested that. I'm
okay,
regrettably
well,
say.
well, unfortunately, that company really overshadowed our startup party at South by Southwest Interactive for
Yeah.
a little company called Oddfellow Studios. But anyway, I love what I do. We love what we do. I love being a part of Dark Whispers and helping that to grow. I love being a part of the virtual world community and helping other people to learn how to make magic in their worlds. And we
Absolutely.
love sharing our magic with everybody.
That is a wonderful way to sum up as I should say, because we are getting to the point where we have to close the show. We're nearly on 2 hours, actually. So we didn't have the wolf didn't go off today. You must be so captivating. Over by the naughty lady, whatever
There's
her
no
name
wolf
is.
today, Mal. There's no wolf today.
Oh, well, you see, I can see him being petted over there. He's just not making a noise.
Yeah,
the soundboard isn't there yet.
There's no soundboard. Okay. That's it.
I was looking for the dog the entire time. I feel cheated. I want the dog.
No.
It's yeah, we had the sound effect of the sort of awful ghosty noise. Actually, it used to be Scar Ghost. It's probably more appropriate for Halloween. But yeah, we just pretend that, you know, when that goes off, we pretend the dog's hungry and he's telling us to close the show and go feed him. You know, doesn't matter anyway. He never really gets fed. Right, okay. So
you ruined the illusion for me.
Sorry.
I said you ruined the illusion for me. The dog doesn't get fed. The dog's going to starve.
He's going to starve.
Oh, my God.
Oh, I'm joking. I'm joking. Of course we do. Of course we feed him well. We really feed him well. You know, he's a carnivore too, and for a vegetarian, that means I actually have to go and buy horrible stuff for him. Anyway, sorry. Tasha and James basically have been very quiet here. Of course, well, I've been talking, and I guess have been talking. Tasha, particularly, I know you came in a bit late, sadly, today or whatever, but you probably picked up a bit about what we're talking about. Have you got any sort of questions or comments for Tuna? Or
Well, not really question. I just want to make some remarks. As I came so late, and anyways, I just got up because I fell asleep in the afternoon, and I just got up, and so I'm still having dreams, and all the things that you're saying and the things that we saw there on the panel, they just perfectly fit into my dreams, and now I'm not sure if I really assisted the show or if I'm still dreaming it.
That's good.
So, put it another way, you definitely arrived in it.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah,
but you made me very curious, and I will have to, you know, go on looking a little bit more, and I will contact you, Tuna, to pass on some of my age-old top hats.
I would be delighted and very happy for that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And yeah, look forward to whatever you've got. I mean, we will have you back, I'm sure. But also look, and hopefully I'm going to get Jana on too, because it's a long time since I've seen her. And of course, I mentioned that you do work quite closely with her too. I mean, for example, you passed on a gig today, didn't you, with her to be here? Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, we do a show every Sunday, and it's part of Dark Whispers. And she has to take the next few weeks off, in fact, because she has a mini tour. But she's going to be back either at the end of December, or we're going to start up again with hers next year. Right. But every Sunday, I'm doing my synthesizer show, Inworld. It's the oddball. It's the oddball but it's the part of the oddball that I do my synth show. And I do my synth show for an hour at every oddball that's going on at this point. Right. So, yeah.
And hopefully we'll be treated, of course, but this show being at the same time, I don't think I'm going to make it, but hopefully you'll do something like that with the OSCC gig you're going to do. Maybe be using some of your music in it.
I am planning on it. I'm hoping to do my show with my visuals and my music, and every minute that you're missing my music, I'm fine-tuning it and figuring it out. Every minute that you're missing the oddball, it's changing and evolving. And, you know, Jaina calls it, you know, generative art. And the music is generative music. And she lives trying to think of the town.
Something
she does a festival. She does a festival every year. And it's a music festival. It's Woodbridge Music Festival.
Woodbridge. Yeah.
And she lives in Woodbridge.
On Facebook, she covered a lot of that stuff. You know, she does her little posts from there. She did a thing there with you this year, didn't she?
Yeah. She did a thing with me and Witchy. Witchy and I last year, we actually coordinated a full ambient music festival in Second Life on the same day. And to coincide with it and be the virtual Woodbridge Music Festival. And then this year, we were lazy. So instead of doing that, we woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning our time. In fact, I think we were up all night because we never sleep. And we ended up
That's true.
doing a
Yeah.
6 o'clock in the morning. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Woodbridge. And we're doing the oddball. And one hour of it, she's singing. The other hour of it, I'm doing my visuals and I'm playing my synth.
Right.
So it's being able to do these international virtual concerts and, still be a starving artist while you're doing it because you make, lindens on the dollar.
Yeah. Oh, while I was working on getting the stuff for the show, I was busy hunting around to see if that Woodbridge thing had been filmed at all, but I couldn't find anything even on Facebook, which is where John seems to put most stuff. So
Yeah.
that's
I think it was
that's
just a live stream.
Yeah. No, wonderful stuff. Yeah. So also moving, James, any questions or comments for Tuna and Witch Whisper for that matter?
Well, I was pleasantly surprised to hear the Residents come up. I've been a long time Residents
Oh,
fan.
yeah.
Yeah, ever since
right.
the Freak Show album and interactive CD-ROM. So that was very fun.
Everyone
Yeah.
comes to the freak
That's
show
right.
to laugh at the freaks and the geeks.
I didn't know the CD-ROM. I must have missed out on that.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh,
Yeah, it's great.
CD-ROM was wonderful. It had, I
Incredible for
collected
the
all
time.
this stuff and I've
Yeah.
lost all this stuff. But the CD-ROM actually had it was an interactive story and it just took you in all different directions. And it had stories that were going on and people who would interact with you. And it was at a time when, they were the pioneers of doing an interactive CD ROM.
Yeah.
They always wanted to be on the cutting edge of the technologies. And so they were finding ways to use things and to layer things and to have, they do concerts where their concerts get recorded and then you can listen to the classic version of the soundtrack watching the same concert's video, or you could watch the concerts version, but either way, they're wearing 3D headsets so that they know that the music that they're listening to is going to sync up, whether it's the old version of the music or the new version of the music, because they think about that.
Yep. They're amazing.
I don't think I want to think about it. My mind is spinning. Yeah, no, that's I definitely heard them and saw them in the MTV days and things, but never really latched onto them that fully. So sounds great.
And even to this day, I don't think have their real names become known. I don't think so. Not sure.
Well, you're not supposed to know them,
right?
And even if we have ideas of who they are, we try not to express them.
Never be communicated. Yep. Excellent.
It's I've went with them and seen them on multiple nights on tours, in multiple places on tours.
Yeah, they were avatars before we were avatars.
They were.
Yep.
And I love them, and I started out with Club Cryptic. I can pull Club Cryptic out of my inventory, at least some version of it, and I can show you the old, Residents hangouts that I hang out with in Second Life.
Excellent. Yep.
I have a Residence head in Second Life.
Of course.
That I think I made one, but I think there's one that I found. I have Residence T-shirts, which I believe are transferable.
Oh, okay.
Just things I got as a collector.
That's a tough call. Eyeball or top hat? I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure if they're transferable, that you will have one the next time I'm hanging with you and Pet Love.
Okay, sure. That'd be a blast. Yep.
Yeah,
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Great.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, well, I hate to do this, but I could talk forever with you guys. But I think we have to wrap up. We're about to hit the 2-hour mark, I think. We probably started a bit late, so not quite 2 hours yet. James will know, but I better not ask him.
104 minutes right now. There you go.
4 minutes short of 2 hours. Fair enough. Right.
There you go.
Okay. Well, yeah, we will get you back again soon, but of course it's barely it's going to be barely a month and a half away from hang on, November, nearly only a month away to the OCC, so
Right.
you got to have a bit of work cut out erecting something that works in OpenSim too. But
Stop me before I
I look
volunteer
forward-
again.
I look forward to seeing a lot more things from you, especially if they're going to happen in OpenSim, and they don't conflict time-wise with the show, of course. So that'd be able to get. And actually, I'm also grateful to you've just been around so long and endured, kind of thing. And I think that is a mark of somebody special too. I mean, I don't know what year it would have been you first entered Second Life, but in fact, I can't even remember when I did. But it was a very, very long time ago. And I guess you've been there since 2005. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there must be. I think I was maybe a year before that. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
and sort of it's you look back and time just flies, but then you think, God, that's quarter of a century ago. or well, not quite, but
Don't make us older than we are.
Yeah.
we have endured. Put it that way. I'll put it under we instead of you. But no, that is something special too. That, because so much happens here for a while, and then people give up or they move on to different things, which is admirable in itself, I suppose. But you are a kind of fixture of what we used to call the metaverse. So wonderful stuff. We will see you soon. So there weren't any more questions from James or Tasha, were there?
Nope.
Yeah, can't wait to. Maybe we're after OCC next. We have a thing of our own, Hypergrid International Expo that Pet Love helps film as well. It's April. It's April next year, but I mean, technically we're European, but I mean, I suppose we could lump Canada under France. Because we have somebody from Canada involved, and they're speaking French, I think. So it's weird.
Well, we can say that Canada is like under the British. It's got this. How do they describe it, Witchy?
Colony.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. We are kind of still one, but we still honor the Queen.
Right.
You're part of the British
Wait,
Commonwealth.
It's the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Well, we now got a king, and he's just gone to Australia and found that the whole of Australia is protesting. They want reparations for slavery or something. Nothing like trying to fix something that happened 200 years ago and putting it into the modern age and declaring war and everything else. So, it's a whole different ballgame. But yes, I think Canada is still a member of the Commonwealth, which not the Empire, but the Commonwealth.
Right.
So, again, it's the principle of shared values and things.
So you see, we can still say that it's part of it. It's affected or somehow part of Europe in some strange sort of way.
Yeah, well, even Britain. Well, Britain's left Europe now officially, but even Britain hasn't been on the Hypergrid International Expo. It's been France, Germany, Spain, and Italy. But then we threw in a bit of Portugal, and then something for South America and things. But we always have like a 20-minute talk of some sort, and that's followed up by a 20-minute performance. And it's always an art performance, You fit well. It's not on the stage, but as an event in the sky or something. We have a lot of these kind of things, particle manipulators and mixing with music and visuals kind of thing. And I suppose James and Tosha were a test. I think we had some pretty good stuff over the last few years at HIE.
I've seen some amazing videos that Pet Love has shared with me.
Right.
Installations that have been there, Petlove and I have known each other since the beginning.
Yeah.
And she came from Brooklyn is Watch. She came to meet me in Brooklyn from Pennsylvania when I did the Brooklyn is Watching exhibit. And I got to hug her in real life. And she was like one of the first avatars who I ever got to hug in real life, who I had known from Second Life. And I just don't forget that. So if you watch this later and I'm sappy, well, sounds sappy. Yeah, well, I guess so. Love you.
Sweet.
Very good. Yes, I should have. Well, I didn't. I advised us to come today. Okay. Well, I am actually going to close off. So I'd like to thank our guest, Tuna Oddfellow. Thank you, Tuna.
Thank you.
And Witch Whisper. Thank you, Witch Whisper.
Thank
So
you.
I'm not going to do it. Right, and also, of course, many thanks, and a shame about timing today, but many thanks, of course, to my co-host, Tosha Ryran. Thank you, Tosh.
Well, for much, I didn't do very much, but I do hope you will repeat, or we will repeat with Tuna and Witch Whisper.
Yeah.
Would be very glad about that.
And you've actually got an excuse to do a bit of replay of this week's show for yourself. I'm terrible. I usually just replay a bit of it to check that it's okay, and never actually do the whole replay. Listening to yourself is, well, something else. And of course, to my right-hand man, James Atlloud. Thank you, James.
Sure thing, Mel, and thank you for bringing us all together.
Okay, my pleasure. And I'll thank myself, of course, because I'm like that. Right. Okay, that's it. I'm going to wish you all a very good morning, a very good afternoon, a very good evening, or indeed a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. And it's a wrap. We're out of here.